Hello, I'm Lisa, a pediatric physiotherapist for babies and toddlers. I've seen firsthand how small, everyday habits in modern parenting can lead to big issues for our babies. In this podcast, I'm going to show you how to prevent those issues, treat them if necessary, and restore the joy to parenting. Hello, and welcome to the Best for Baby podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Rogers Sargent, and today we are continuing our conversation with the fabulous Dr. Kailey Buller. She is a physician who works with children and families and has made it her life's mission to provide really helpful, clear, unambiguous information for parents regarding the early days of having a baby, as well as parent care and mother's health. So we will pick up where we left off on our conversation last week. So if you haven't yet done so, please do go and listen to the first part of this two-part episode with Dr. Kailey Buller. Can I ask you to talk to us a little bit about weaning in terms of the baby-led weaning versus purees and any thoughts on that?
So many thoughts. Yep. Okay. So when I first had my babies, I did not know what baby-led weaning was. And I remember someone saying like, oh, you're not doing baby-led. It was so judgmental. And I thought, like am I missing out on this? And so there are a few studies that do show that baby-led weaning leads to slightly fewer 1-year-olds who are over the 50th percentile for weight. Like maybe a few babies aren't heavier. In the long run, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't change anything over the longer term. So baby-led weaning or purees are both perfectly valid ways to start your baby on solids. So especially if you don't know what baby-led weaning is, don't worry about it, right? Like just don't, don't worry about it. And I find that starting with purees is often easier for parents, but baby-led weaning essentially is you just give your baby something and let them feed themselves. And the only rules I have for that is that it has to be soft enough that they can gum it, but keep in mind that their teeth are right below the gums. So their gums are actually pretty firm. Okay. So even like lightly toasted bread, things like that, like that's not too hard for them to gum and to chew. And it has to be either so small that it won't block an airway. So if it's a blueberry, I would cut a blueberry in half for a 6-month-old. Like a 6-month-old is tiny and their airways are tiny. So they talk a lot about grapes for kids, like toddlers and older. But when you think about a baby who's a mini version of that, like even blueberries would be. So if you're doing berries, I would smush them. That's kind of what I would say. So make it small enough that it won't block an airway, or make it so big that they can't possibly fit the whole thing in their mouth at once. So you can give them a whole muffin to gnaw on, or you can give them a rib with some meat on it to chew on. Like both of those options are totally fine. And that's good for babies, right? They can play with their food. They can explore their food. There's so much more to starting solids than just the nutritional content. The color, the feel, the temperature, the taste, like all of that is part of the experience. And so giving babies food to play and explore is a really, really great option, but they can do that with purees too.
Okay. Gosh, you've just made my blood run cold thinking back, because, you know, it's crazy. Everyone talks about grapes. And so I would often take cherry tomatoes and think, this is funny because I'm sure this would block an airway, but nobody talks about this. They say grapes. And then I thought maybe grapes are slippery and not cherry tomatoes. So I would always give her whole cherry tomatoes, but cut my grapes.
Yes. And that's, again, so like the teaching is, like grapes, you make sure you cut them. But sure, anything, I think anything grape sized should probably be. And that's, I mean, grapes are a common one. And I think that's just because kids like grapes. Like more kids probably eat grapes than cherry tomatoes, I guess. But the common ones are grapes, hot dog coins. So when you cut the hot dog into like circles, I see kids choke on that a lot. So if you're going to do hot dogs, I would do like hot dog matchsticks, like let them hold it and chew on it that way. And popcorn. Kids choke on popcorn a lot.
Okay. And what is the story with popcorn? They say there's like, maybe it's just because of the size they choke on it. It's not because they say no popcorn under 5 or something, which it's just, I think just because of the choking risk, and it's not a modifiable one. Like grapes, you can cut, hot dogs, you can cut it different way. Popcorn, you just can't change it. Okay. Gosh. So literally, the whole thing about, or the hype about baby-led weaning was about babies not putting on weight or becoming overweight.
Mhm.
That's it.
I think so. I mean, that's the
Gosh,
research that I did at the time
yes.
was the obesity rates in children. But
Gosh. I thought it was all to do with their ability to chew and swallow and manage those.
I know. No, and I think that's a really good point. I'm certain that being able to play with their food does help with fine motor development and gross motor development. And learning how to bite and chew and swallow is absolutely a skill that babies need
Yes.
to learn. And so it's another thing that I counsel a lot on my parents on is that when babies start solids, they will gag. They will absolutely gag and they will push food back out. And if they're spitting their food out, it is not because they don't like the meal. It's not like a comment on the culinary,
Yeah.
aspects of it. It's just that they're still coordinating their mouths and then the food's just coming back out
Oh,
and
God.
they will gag, and the gagging is a protective mechanism so that they don't choke, because you have to keep in mind they haven't really had to use their oral
Yes.
muscles that way before. So gagging is fine as long as they're gagging, spitting things out and not choking, which is where they'd be coughing. And again, coughing, you do nothing, you just let them cough. Don't pat them on the back or pound them on the back when they start coughing. Just encourage them to keep coughing. They will get it out. It's
Okay.
only when they stop breathing that's when you need to intervene.
Okay. Gosh, so you don't pat them on the back if they're coughing.
You don't. No, and it's so instinctual with parents because if there is
Yes.
something that's lodged in their airway and you pat them on the back and they go, they're just as likely to actually inhale it deeper on the
Okay.
inhale after you've hit them on the back. So just encourage them to keep coughing. And it was so funny because as I did this with my kids, I would just cough with them. I'd be like, oh, yep, good, good. I don't know why. Like it was
Okay.
just, right? So you just
But you're part
tell
of
them to
it
keep
doing
coughing.
that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that if you're slapping on the back, you feel like
I
you're
just coughed
helping.
with them. And I think part of that too is I was trying to show them that, yes, this is good. And right. It's
Yeah.
okay. That's okay.
So we don't pat them on the backs when they're coughing. We cough along with them if we need to feel like we're showing a sense of
Like we're doing something.
solidarity. Okay.
Yes.
Oh,
Hmm.
wow. Um, and then something I know you talk quite a lot about, and I think you've got a number of podcast episodes sort of broken up on it, and is a huge topic.
Hmm.
But can we talk a bit about sleep
Hmm.
and what's normal, what's to be expected, and then maybe touch on sleep training? And
Hmm.
I've heard you talk about sleep teaching, so
Yes.
a little bit about that enormous topic.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's a big topic.
Yes.
So this is one of the most polarizing topics I think in parenting. Um, and I really think it's unfair to parents to make it so polarizing because it doesn't need to be. But one of the biggest things to understand about sleep is that it's a neurological process, right? It has to do with a baby's brain and how their brain is developing. So there have been studies that were done on babies in the NICU who were tube fed, like they had formula going in a feeding tube. So they were theoretically never hungry and they had the same sleep patterns as babies at home.
Oh gosh.
So I think that's really important for parents to understand is that the way that your baby sleeps is part of their development. It's normal. So the broken sleep, the funny noises, all of that is normal. And if they wake frequently, and like some babies just rouse a bit more. So what happens is they go into this deep sleep and then they come up into lighter sleep. And some babies, when they're in that lighter sleep, they grunt and snuffle and make some weird noises and then
Mm.
fall back to sleep. Other babies wake and have trouble falling back to sleep. So that's usually the difference between a good sleeper and a not good sleeper is just how close to the surface they come in those light stages of sleep.
Okay.
Some babies can just naturally connect those cycles and go back into a deeper sleep. Some babies can't. And that's where I find a lot of parents get all up in arms about when they say things like, well, babies know how to sleep. Like you can just put your baby down to sleep. You can just leave them to figure it out. Or I don't understand why you should be doing sleep training or sleep teaching. But for some babies, they actually have to learn how to connect those sleep cycles.
Okay.
And there's different ways to teach that, obviously. And I think that what winds up happening sometimes is that we are part of the problem, is that we teach our babies some bad habits, perhaps. So,
Mm.
breastfeeding mothers, for example, are much quicker to respond to a baby overnight and more frequently because, of course, you're anxious that they're hungry, right? You don't know how much they're
Yeah.
getting each breastfeeding session. There's really no
Mm.
way to tell. And so they will respond a bit faster. And their baby who has woken up, maybe they would have fallen back asleep if they had had a few minutes to try, but we never find out because mom goes, gives them a feed, and feeds them back to sleep.
Okay.
And then baby never learns how to do it without the feed. And
Okay.
so now they sort of become reliant
Mm.
on it, right? But, and I want to say this very clearly, there's nothing wrong with that either, right? Like, that's fine. If it's working for you and you're okay responding to your baby and feeding them back to sleep, you're not doing harm,
Yeah.
right? But if you give them a few moments, so we call that responsive waiting, if they wake up and you think, I just fed them 2 hours ago, they're probably not hungry. I'm going to give them just 5 minutes to sort of fuss and murp and see if they fall back to sleep. There's nothing wrong with that either. You're
Mm.
not doing any harm
Mm.
in that scenario either. So there's no one size fits all. There's no one way that you have to do sleep with a baby. Everything's good if it feels okay. Like do that gut check, right?
Yeah.
Gut without guilt. Just check in with your gut and then don't feel guilty about it. If it feels right to you, you do it.
Okay.
Okay.
And then what sort of age are babies physiologically able to, go, say, I don't know, 6 hours or 8 hours
Mhm.
through the night?
It depends on the baby, right? And it depends on your supply and it depends on how much they're eating
Okay.
during the day. So, the easiest way to remember it, and this isn't 100% accurate, but it's just really easy to remember, is the number of months that they are old is how many hours they can go.
The number of months they are old. Oh, I see. Okay.
So, if they're 6 months old, they can absolutely go 6 hours overnight. If they're 8 months old, they can absolutely go 8 hours overnight without a feed. If they're nine hours,
Okay.
right?
Gosh, that's
So,
clever.
that's just an easy way to remember it. But there are 3 months old who can go 8 hours, right? Like
Yes.
it's not necessarily 100% accurate, but it's sort of the bare minimum, right? Like you can definitely safely go that amount of time.
Okay. And you
Yeah.
wouldn't. Oh, right. That makes
Mhm.
sense.
So most babies, 75% of babies by 9 months can do a 12-hour stretch.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Okay.
So at 9 months, a lot of babies can go through the night without a night feed, and certainly by 1 year.
Okay.
So that's
Yes.
sort of the range where you would be thinking like 9 to 12 months, you should expect that your baby can go the full night. Do they go the full night? Maybe not. But at that point, if you're going in to feed multiple times a night, like especially a 6 month old and older, if you're going in more than once, chances are it's not because your baby is
Needs the
really, truly
feed.
hungry.
Okay. Okay.
Chances are it's something that it's either a habit that's sort of slowly crept in or it's neurological. They haven't learned how to connect those sleep cycles,
Okay.
right?
Okay. And then you might sleep teach them or
You
sleep
might
train
sleep
them.
teach. You might do some sleep teaching. And yeah, you might do some sleep teaching. So, sleep teaching. So, from my perspective, everything that teaches your baby healthy sleep fundamentals is sleep training or sleep teaching. And that's why I thought maybe we should rebrand it to sleep teaching because
Okay.
doing things like a nap time routine and a bedtime routine, like most people wouldn't consider that sleep training,
No.
but that's still a very important part of
Yes.
healthy sleep,
Yes.
right? That pattern recognition, that chance to wind down, it gives their nervous system something to sort of attach to and say, okay, sleep is coming. Now it's time to wind down. And
Okay.
that's still part of sleep,
Okay.
right? So even that, so that's why I say sleep teaching. So doing, a bedtime routine that's consistent, that's important. Keeping your baby from getting overtired. So not keeping them awake too long, that's
Okay.
still part of sleep. That's still sleep teaching, right? So when your baby starts to get fussy or when your baby starts to stare blankly into space, like you can tell that they're starting to get tired, starting bedtime routines, starting winding them down and getting them ready for sleep, that teaches them that when I feel this way, it's time to start getting ready for
Okay.
sleep. So that's
Good.
still sleep teaching.
Yes.
So even just those fundamentals, which don't involve any overnight sleep training, which I think a lot of parents are concerned about,
Yes.
even those are important. And if you do only that, it might be enough, right? And then I often recommend, like, if you really truly don't think that your baby needs a feed overnight, I would give them a few minutes to see if they'll settle themselves back down, right? So giving them 5 minutes, that's not going to do any harm in any way,
If
right?
they crying, or do you mean if they just fussing? Even
Yeah, I mean,
crying.
even
Okay.
crying, because I mean, they're going to be uncomfortable. They're not going to like that you're not there. But one of the things that really, I think, turned me in my thinking was, if your baby is distressed for whatever reason, let's say maybe they wake up and they've got a little bit of gas, whatever the case may be. If you always respond, they actually might not learn that that distress will pass on its own,
Okay.
right? Like they might think that I will be uncomfortable, I will be in distress forever unless mom comes.
Okay.
And that honestly kind of broke my heart a little bit when I thought, oh my gosh, my baby's going to think that if they're in discomfort, it's never going to go away unless I
Yes.
go. But so learning that, like this too shall pass, I
Yes.
think it is an important thing for babies to
Okay.
learn. So
Yes.
giving them a few minutes, even if they're fussing. Now, if the crying is escalating, or if you've got a colicky baby and they're not going to settle, that's something else entirely. Like
Okay.
you know
Yeah.
your baby,
Yeah.
right? But I think even if they're fussing and crying a little bit, give them a few minutes, see what happens.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if this is even true
Mm-hmm.
physiologically, but there's a lot of sensationalist bits on social media where they say you should never let your baby cry because it releases cortisol and the cortisol does damage and all of this. So now obviously I
Yeah.
started reading these things after my
Right.
child was much older,
Mm-hmm.
and it fills me with dread. So yeah, what do you have to say about that?
Flipping cortisol, I tell you. It's like it's the buzzword of the year.
Yes.
Um it's not, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Stress increases cortisol. It's a distress hormone. But fatigue increases cortisol. And so
Okay.
if your baby's tired,
Mm.
their cortisol will go up. So it's just like six of one, half dozen of the other. If you're avoiding sleep teaching, if you're avoiding sleep training because you're worried about cortisol and your baby's not sleeping well,
They've
their
got
cortisol is going to
cortisol.
rise. You have to sort of balance one versus the other. And yeah, your baby is going to be distressed sometimes. And yes, their cortisol level might go up, but cortisol in and of itself isn't going to cause harm to their body. It's just a response, right? The
Okay.
same as adrenaline, right? Like if adrenaline doesn't cause damage to your body, it's just a
Okay.
hormone that your body uses for a certain function,
Okay.
right? And in this case, adrenaline and cortisol together are often both released when a baby starts to get overtired. And that's why they get fussy and cranky. And that's why they don't want to fall asleep. And they can't fall asleep because they have adrenaline and cortisol
Yes.
rushing through their body. And it makes it harder to fall asleep. It also makes it more likely for them to wake more frequently. And it makes it more likely for them to wake up early in the morning. So they get
Okay. Gosh.
less sleep and poorer quality of sleep if they're overtired. Like it's so,
Okay.
it really shouldn't be this complicated, but it's
Oh,
become
it
complicated,
has. And I think we
right?
get so many little pieces of information that terrify us.
Mhm.
And if someone says you're going to damage your baby, then you do anything not to damage your baby. So
Of course.
it makes us terrified, and we then go and do perhaps silly things or, things that make no sense out of
Hmm.
it.
Well,
Gosh.
absolutely. Or you don't know the other side. You don't know the pros and the cons, right?
Mm.
And I mean that's sort of my catchphrase is, if anyone gives you advice, if anyone says you should try this, you should do this, you shouldn't do that, ignore it. Any advice ever. Because no one can give advice without it being an opinion,
Gosh.
right? That advice comes from their own personal experience, their lived experience, their education, their knowledge, their beliefs, their values, their family system, their baby's
Yeah.
temperament, right? Like it always has that sub context. Instead, what I encourage parents to do, which is easier said than done, but what I encourage parents to do is to find the information that's forming that opinion,
Okay.
right? So if someone says you should do baby led weaning, why? If someone says you shouldn't sleep train, why? Like, what is it that's sort of making them have that opinion? And then you collect all this information and you use that to make a decision that works for you and your family.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great
Because
advice,
it
actually.
might it might not apply to you, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And I often talk about sleep training too. Like when people are talking about sleep training, I did cry it out. I did the extinction method. It was a harsh method,
Mm.
but I was hallucinating day 5 postpartum with my first because I hadn't slept in
Gosh.
5 days. And I have had patients who come in with psychosis. They are
Mm.
hallucinating. They're seeing things falling off the shelves that aren't actually falling off the shelves, like earthquakes
Gosh.
are happening in their house.
Yeah.
Like it's really scary. And how that impacts how you show up for your baby
Mm.
is way riskier
Mm.
than a little extra cortisol if you're doing sleep training. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's not one size fits all. So I did the extinction method with my kid because he was colicky, and for the first 4 months, it wasn't like we had to bed share. Like I couldn't just be near him. Like I had to be rocking and rather aggressively, like swinging and bouncing. Like
Gosh.
I got such a good workout in those first 4 months, and as he got heavier and heavier, my arms got so tired. But I would stay up. I would be awake until 3, 4 in the morning, and then my husband would get up and take over. Like we couldn't sleep. He had to be
Gosh.
held constantly. So when we finally figured out that had a cow's milk protein allergy, unbeknownst to us, he finally was over the colic, but those habits then were still
Okay.
ingrained. He didn't know how to sleep without us. We had never really given him that opportunity, and we couldn't have
Yes.
because he was hurting, right? He was
Yeah.
uncomfortable all the time. So trying any other sleep training method, any of those gentler methods, the ones with the check-ins, the ones that had us present, like it didn't work. And oftentimes for colicky babies, they just don't work. Your presence is so stimulating that when you go to check in, it just like hits the reset button and they're, fussy again and they're
Mm.
awake again. So we let him figure it out, right? As much as that sounds harsh, right? We said, you know what? And he was almost 6 months, and I said, you know what? You need to sleep. I
Mm.
need to sleep. I know you can do it. Here we go. And we let him cry. It was a little over an hour.
Gosh.
And that was the hardest probably hour. I still remember it. Obviously, this was
Yes.
6 years ago, 6.5 years ago.
Mm.
Um, but he found his thumb and he was fine. He was fine. And our relationship was better for it,
I'm sure. Yeah.
right? Like I was better rested. He was better rested. He was a happier baby. He wasn't fussy all the time because he was now better rested. And I think it was overall, it was a really positive thing for us. And then later we had to break the thumb sucking habit, but it was a win at the time.
Yes. Yes. I think I've heard sleep consultants say for the extinction method, I think that's what you
Mm-hmm.
call it. Um, there's criteria like your baby has to be a certain age,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the things also is it's indicated if you as the parent cannot cope, you cannot do anything else. It's
Yes.
becomes a necessity almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Absolutely. And some of the other methods that require things like check-ins or you're supposed to take certain steps. Like the biggest thing with any sleep teaching, actually, well, the biggest thing with your baby ever in general is consistency, right? You don't want to send them mixed signals, right? If sometimes you'll go in when they cry, then they'll learn to cry because they know
yes,
that you'll eventually respond. And if sometimes you'll do this and sometimes you'll do that, that can be confusing. They won't learn. So you have to sort of set the boundaries and let them learn to exist within them. So if it's difficult to remember how many minutes I've been since I did my last check-in, it
yeah,
might just be a simpler method for sleep-deprived
okay,
parents as well,
okay, yeah,
right? So again, we sort of accidentally stumbled upon this, but in the book, and I think it's in my sleep course as well, I talk about this other sleep training method, and I call it the block method. And the reason I really, really love it is it's easy to remember and it's completely modifiable, which is what I like. So what you do basically is if your baby's a bad sleeper or you just want to improve it even a little, you choose a block of time that you feel comfortable your baby can go without feeds because that's going to vary from baby to baby. There's no correct answer. So for my son, he had never really gone without he didn't sleep, but he would go maybe 45 minutes to an hour and a half between feeds because he was a super high sec needs baby and just like he would wake up and
oh,
feed like suck 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 like that's he just needed that stimulation all the time. But I was like, you're 5 months old. Like, you don't need to feed that
yes,
frequently, right? I chose 3 hours, which was way under what actually probably he could do. But I was like, 3 hours, that's all I feel comfortable with.
yeah,
So 3 hours, in those 3 hours like that, I won't feed you. So I chose a 3 hour block. And then you choose a reassurance level that you feel comfortable with. So for us, it was the extinction method. Like we were out of the room and it was just easier for us. But for some, it might be putting a mattress on the floor beside the crib. It might be having a bassinet beside your bed. It might be bringing baby into bed with you. Not that I encourage that, of course, but if it's going to happen, right, you have to do what works for you. And then when your baby wakes up before that block of time is up, you don't do anything. You do nothing, right? You let them fall back to sleep within the parameters of reassurance that you're already providing. So you're
okay,
already laying next to them. and you let them fall back to sleep with you there, but you don't pick them up and cuddle them and feed them, right? You just let them fall back to sleep within that
Okay.
reassurance threshold. And I think that way it's a lot easier for parents, A, to remember what they're doing, so they're not doing anything, and B, to provide some reassurance
Yes.
in a way that makes sense to them.
So they can almost choose those reassuring elements, whatever they want to do, they can
Hmm.
choose themselves. Gosh. And
Yeah.
so this block method, you said it's in your book, Surviving
Mhm.
Tiny Humans. And did you say you've also got a sleep course?
Yes, yeah. So there's different there's different levels of things. Like I said, I tried to sort of make everything in a variety of formats because I feel people learn in different ways.
Yes.
So yes, on the website there are some sleep quick tools, there are some free resources, but there's also classes. So I do have classes that have like videos breaking down what is normal sleep, what's happening neurologically at each age, like at 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, like what can you be doing? How can you support sleep? Like it goes through everything, and then the block method is in that as well.
Okay, that's amazing. Gosh, there's a lot. Your website has a huge number of resources that we can all have a look at. So I'll put perhaps just the website and people can go and have a look at all these links and browse through it themselves. Um, and I know
Mhm.
you had said something earlier about when we were talking about poop and how much you love it, but you had also said to me in one of our
Yes.
emails about some tips and tricks you have for getting stains out of babies' clothes.
Yes. Okay. This is a quick one, but I love this one. And I actually didn't know it when I was a mom of a newborn. I wish I did. Sunlight, so not like the soap, but like actual rays of the
Oh,
sun can help get poop stains out of clothes. Isn't that the coolest thing? Isn't that the coolest thing you've ever heard? So the UV, I don't know if it's the UV or the, but I don't know what it is, but it breaks down the bilirubin.
oh
Actually,
gosh.
it's probably the UV because so when you think about babies who are jaundiced, they get phototherapy, right, to
Yes,
help
the
break
sunlight.
down
Yes, the light.
and metabolize the so yeah, so
Yes.
sunlight can actually help break down that bilirubin. And then if you leave it in a bright window or you leave it outside for a day or two and then wash it, apparently that stain, it doesn't necessarily come right out, but apparently that makes a big difference.
Gosh,
And I
that's
thought that
amazing.
was really neat. The other tip that I love, which has nothing really to do with poop stains per se, but just for ease of being a mom, is if you have like one of those big tool buckets, like those sort of multiple gallon pails, put water and a tiny bit of stain remover in that and put it next to your washing machine. And then if you have some clothes that have stains in it, you just throw them right in the bucket. And then you don't have to
Oh,
do laundry right away, but they'll be soaking.
oh, that's so clever.
Isn't that great?
Yes.
No, I learned that
Gosh,
with my second, not with my first. My first would have been really helpful to have had that tip. But
gosh,
yeah.
that
And
is
then just do
super
laundry when you
helpful.
have time to do laundry. You don't have to throw it in right away.
Yes,
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah.
And talking about laundry, do you have any opinions? You know, people often talk about our washing powders being causing allergic reactions. Do you have advice or opinions on that?
Baby skin is super sensitive. So, yeah, it can cause some dermatitis. So, it's not
Yeah.
necessarily allergies, but like atopic dermatitis. So, dermatitis or eczema, really. So, if you're worried about that, then you can do like the scent-free or hypoallergenic or whatever laundry detergent, right? Like I think we use like Tide Free and Gentle. I don't know exactly what we use. But is that universally going to happen with babies? No. Like if you just want to stick with your laundry detergent, of course you can stick with your laundry detergent. But then if you have a baby who has eczema or if you have a baby who's got, sensitive skin, then maybe consider switching. But I wouldn't say go and change all the products in your house
Okay. Yeah.
necessarily. Hmm.
Yeah. And do you have any sort of preferred over-the-counter type creams or things that you find are helpful for those babies? Obviously not your baby with real eczema, but just those kind of
No, no, I
more
do.
allergic.
I do,
Oh,
even for
oh,
eczema. So I do.
wow.
Sorry, I know. I was like, I'm so passionate about this. So this is, if you have one thing only in your house or in your first aid kit, petroleum jelly, like plain old
Really?
Vaseline. Yes, you use it for everything. Like you use it for wound care, you use it for burns, you use it for circumcision care, you use it for eczema, you use it for dermatitis, you use it for perioral dermatitis. So if your baby is drooling and they've got that rash around their mouth,
Yeah.
Vaseline. If they've got diaper rash, Vaseline. Eczema, Vaseline. Circumcision, Vaseline. Like Vaseline, it is,
Gosh. I
yes.
thought it
So
was full of chemicals because it's called petroleum jelly. I thought it was full of
no, I
horrible
don't.
things.
I don't think so. No, it's and I mean it's recommended by all of the pediatricians and dermatologists, right? Like
Really?
it's so yes. So plain old petroleum jelly, it's a barrier cream. So the one thing that I always, because my husband always called it a moisturizer, it's not a moisturizer. It's a
Okay.
barrier cream. So what it does is it traps whatever's on one side on like inside and it traps whatever's out. Like it just doesn't let moisture cross.
Okay.
So if you have diaper rash, that's usually from being wet for too long or irritated for too long. So what you do is you let it dry and then you put some Vaseline on there to trap the wetness off. So then when they pee in their diaper or poop in their diaper, that keeps the pee and the poop off of their rash,
Okay. Okay.
right? And if you have really stubborn diaper rash, you can honestly use like a hair dryer on the cool setting to really make sure that it's dry and then put the Vaseline on there.
Gosh,
Yeah. And if they've
that's
got
amazing.
eczema, I know, right?
Yeah.
If they have eczema, which is that sort of scaly rash, usually on like the elbows or the backs of the knees, usually like where the skin folds. When they get out of the bath, don't rub the water all off. Maybe pat them dry, leave it a little bit moist, and then put Vaseline on top. And that's going to trap that moisture in and help treat the eczema.
Okay. Gosh.
Mhm.
Well, I'm going to
Yeah.
be sharing this episode with everyone I know. I'm going to make everyone listen to all of this.
Like,
This is
tell
amazing.
everyone to buy petroleum jelly. It is honestly the best thing, and it's great for
Gosh.
adults, of course, too. So
Yes.
if you have a cut and you're worried about scarring, you're worried about how it's healing, Vaseline. Like
Gosh.
wounds heal better in a moist environment. Like it is universally helpful.
Well, my
So
mother
take it.
and her mother always used to say, as soon as someone was about, bumped themselves and they were going to get a bruise, they would put Vaseline on and they said it stops the bruising. And that's the only time I use Vaseline on my child. And it does seem to help. And I can't think why. It makes no sense. But
No, I don't know. I don't know why that would work, but hey, if it works, it's kind of like in like my big fat Greek wedding where they always use Windex for pimples. Like if it works, I don't know. Like sure, why not?
Oh gosh. Oh wow. Well, Katie, this has been absolutely amazing. I want to go and listen again to the episode and write down all these clever points so I can tell parents, whenever I go and do my home visits. Um, but tell us, do you do clinical consultations like this remotely? Could people get hold of you, or is it more through your resources that they can have you in their lives?
A really good question. I would love to do consultations. It's something I have considered, but honestly, I already work 4 jobs and I just could not possibly do it. Maybe in the future I will, but no, it's mostly through the resources. And that's why I made the videos, honestly, was because sometimes it's easier when it's explained. So those are there
Yes.
if needed. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, amazing. And we will make sure to put all those links there for our listeners to find. But to finish, can you give us, is there, or tell us, is there one piece of advice that you wish every parent knew as soon as they had their baby?
Mm. Well, so I think I've already said it because my one piece of advice is always ignore everybody. Ignore advice, right? You are already doing a wonderful job and you are already the best possible parent for your baby, right? They're going to love you 100% unconditionally and you're doing a great job. Like this is a hard job. And one thing that I always, always, always want to tell people is that if you think you are getting it right all the time, that's a problem because it means you're probably not learning,
Okay.
right? Your baby's constantly going to be changing. The evidence is constantly going to be changing. The things people tell you are constantly going to be changing.
Mm.
So if you think that you've got it all figured out, then there's probably something you're missing. So it's good. If you think that you're getting it wrong all the time, that's probably a good thing because it means that you are open to learning and you're going to be taking all that in.
Gosh, not what I thought. I thought you were going to say Vaseline.
Well, Vaseline's
No.
important too.
No, I mean, that's amazing advice because it's a little bit more than just the medical advice we sometimes expect to only hear from doctors. And I think it probably has a lot more weight coming from a doctor and feels a lot more reassuring because I think certainly most mums listening to this show are probably in that boat and feeling like they're getting a lot wrong.
Well, absolutely. I mean, how
Yeah.
could you not? There's just so much. And
Yes.
that's why professionals like us exist and our door is always open, right? If you have a question, don't feel ashamed. You should ask. And here's one other thing I always like to say. If your doctor is judgmental and makes you feel silly for having brought that in, call them out
Yeah.
because chances are we've just forgotten that not everybody knows what we know. It's become second nature to us to know some of this, but
Mm.
moms don't know, and we shouldn't expect you to. So if I say, "Oh, I can't believe you came to the emergency department for this. This is obviously not an emergency," and you say, "Well, I didn't know and I was worried, right? When should I worry? Like call them out and then ask the question, because some doctors are honestly just jerks, but sometimes it's just because we forget.
Yeah, yeah. Gosh. Well, thank you so much. So much good advice. It's been absolutely amazing having you here.
Thank
I
you.
hope we can have you back another time because it's really, I've
Yes.
learned so much. So,
I
yeah,
would be absolutely delighted. I've got lots to share, obviously.
amazing. Well, thank you very, very much. Yeah, and we wish you all the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of our episode today. All of Dr. Kailey Buller's links will be in the show notes. And from both of us, I'm sure, we wish you all the very best and all the best for your baby.